Oh, yes.
Welcome back once again, everyone. Today I've got a rather surprising review for you. This just showed up at my doorstep today. I wasn't expecting it, didn't get a notification that it shipped, but this is our review for the new Transformers War for Cybertron Earthrise Deluxe Centurion drone with accessory pack. And I say Earthrise, and that might be a little confusing because you're like, what? No, this is Selects, right? That looks like a Selects box. It totally does. It is a Selects box. Right down to the style, everything. But when you get here to the label, you got the name here, and then look at the barcode, right? War for Cybertron Earthrise 33. And it does line up with the numbering because there is no other Earthrise 33. So even though it isn't explicitly marketed as such, this is officially an Earthrise toy for all intents and purposes. So for anyone that doesn't know about this, the Centurion drone is a silver recolor of the Brunt toy, which was based on the design of the Centurion drone, so it's just kind of coming back full circle now. And the main draw of this, for most people I think, isn't so much the drone himself, but the massive amount of accessories he comes with. This is the first time Hasbro's really released an accessory pack for the Transformers brand. It's something people have been clamoring for years, and they're finally kind of dipping their toes in it, and I hope this does well enough, and Hasbro sees that to where they do at least one more of these. I don't mind the design team trying to come up with ways to kind of fill in the gaps where budget may restrict them from including everything they want the first go around. Not ideal, but if they're limited by budget, there's only so much they can do. So I appreciate gestures like this. Now, this toy did retail for $30 on Hasbro Pulse, and I think some other online outlets. Though, when it was first put up on Pulse for about the first half hour or so, it was only listed at 20 bucks. I managed to get it for 20, so, woo, discount. Basically got the accessories for free. So, nice. But even at 30, I think it's worth it. The amount of accessories you get in this is really impressive. And with that being said, if you've seen my reviews before, you know how this is going to go. We'll take a look at the toy's packaging, though kind of already did that. We'll open it up. We'll see everything inside. We'll see the instructions for the toy. We'll get a good look at the Centurion drone himself in both the vehicle robot mode, weaponizer modes, because he's a weaponizer, right? So we could have some fun there. Then we'll take a good amount of time to really focus on all these new accessories and pair them up where we can with, their intended recipients. Really get to have some fun there. And then, of course, at the end of the video, I'll give my final thoughts. So, like I already said, this comes in a select style mailer box. Got the same old, graffiti War for Cybertron on the top, name, label, and then just the usual stuff all around the sides there. Okay, I've gone and cut the label so we can open this up. The inside is unique. Look at that. It gives you a very cool parts layout for all the different accessories that are included. And those accessories are contained in this little box here. On the left side, you have the Centurion drone itself. Not quite as silver looking as the renders made it seem. More of a metallic gray, but that's still cool. I actually really like it. Yeah, I dig that. So, let's see. Pull that out. Oh, it's separate from the tray. I thought it was like within a tray. Okay. So there's our guy. Looks like Brunt, or Brunt looks like him. However you want to look at that. And then here we have the instructions. And one thing that's interesting is that on the instructions, he's labeled as a Decepticon. Now, it's a little weird here because the Centurion drones, which originated in the IDW comics, at least, in this incarnation, they weren't really aligned. They were kind of pre-war Cybertronian security drones. So I think it's a weird choice. The Decepticon allegiance may just be a carryover from the Brunt toy. Might have just not, changed his allegiance when they did these instructions and everything. I don't know. Can't really imagine the character being a Decepticon, and I don't think it has a faction symbol anywhere on it. So, I don't know. I would probably, as far as headcanon, unless these guys show up maybe at some point during the Netflix series or comic series, I would probably just headcanon this as like an Autobot aligned character, just to have a counterpart to Brunt there. But anyway, got the render on the front. Open this up. Got the conversion from robot to vehicle mode. Bring it around back. This shows you how to like take them apart into his component pieces so that you can go ahead and utilize the weapon modes here. And then this little bit on the side just gives you some more renders of the accessories, which we'll get a very good look at after Brunt. So don't worry about that. All right, here we get a look at the Centurion drone in its vehicle form, which is based directly off of Brunt's vehicle form, previously known as Brunt's only form in G1. And, hey buddy. And you can see it's fully functional, rolls on wheels that are underneath the static treads, and rolls just fine that way. Cut out. The cannon can spin in a full 360. You can point up and down. A little loose. Doesn't bear much weight, but it'll stay without you touching anything. Oh, we're being attacked. Now, for comparison's sake, we have the other two versions of this mold. You have the original Brunt, and then over here you have the minor retool, which is Zetar, one of the Power Dashers. And the biggest difference here in the vehicle mode is, when it comes to Zetar, because he's got this drill bit in the front, which makes him, a drill tank of some sort. Plus the retooled head that you can see poking out through the top. All right, so there's our look at that. And, the tolerances haven't really changed much. I think Brunt's cannon might be a little sturdier with the up or down motion, but not too noticeable. All right, now we're gonna do the weaponizer modes. I'm not gonna show the transformations between the various modes, just because we did that before with Brunt's review. So if you want to see that, make sure to check out the review I did on Brunt, which I'll include a link to that in the description if you want to see it. All right, and here's the first weaponizer configuration for this mold. This is called the Demolition Loadout. It's not called out as such within the Centurion drone's instructions, just it's unlabeled, but Brunt and Zetar both utilize that name in theirs. So you can see our Centurion drone is arming up old Hubcap, who, poor guy, nobody watched his review. I don't know why, but it really proves that Hubcap just doesn't get any love. You guys don't love Hubcap. What's wrong with y'all? But anyway, you can see Brunt being paired with Refractor, and then Zetar is being paired up with the Combat Clone Sideswipe, or known by fans as, G2 Sideswipe. Just want to give you a varied look at how this configuration works with different body types. But overall, it's pretty cool. It's a little heavy to the one side because they do have the big shoulder-mounted cannon thing going on, but these guys manage to stand up all right. Hubcap's a little bit harder for him to bear that weight. His joints aren't quite as tight, but if you pose him well, he can handle it. All right, here's the second weaponizer configuration called the Serpentine Loadout. And I gotta say, perhaps Hubcap was not the best choice to pair with this weaponizer, because this poor guy is struggling right now, let me tell you. He is just barely standing up. Let this review be a lesson that the Cliff Jumper mold family are probably not quite sturdy enough to hold up these large weaponizing configurations. But at least you get to see what it looks like. Poor guy. Oh well. Anyway, now that we've seen the weaponizing modes, I'm going to go ahead, convert him to robot mode, and of course do comparisons with his mold mates. And then after we've seen that, we'll move on to the accessory part. Okay, and now here's finally our look at the Centurion drone's robot mode. And again, this is a direct redeco of Brunt, though Brunt's robot mode was lifted directly from the design of the Centurion drones in the IDW comics. So, I don't know who's a repaint to who at this point, but you get what I'm saying. Overall, he looks very, very cool. I mean, Brunt looks cool in his own right. I think the Centurion drone just ends up looking a little more Terminator-esque, right? A little more like an actual mindless drone. And then you just get Zetar and his goofy face over here, which I love. I love the delightfully goofy Power Dashers. Really happy we got those in Selects, by the way. Well, Selects/Siege. What's really neat, too, is that with these three, you now have a Decepticon version, an Autobot version, and then even a neutral version. So you can kind of place them wherever you want. They've fought both Autobots and Decepticons, the Centurions, so, you know, whatever you want to do, whatever makes you happy. I will point out that, interestingly, the paint on the little gun barrel thing appears to be the exact same color for these two. I'm not really sure why. Personally, I think I would have just painted it silver. It would have looked more like the actual comic source material, but oh well. I think he looks really great. I love the blend of metallic gray plastic and silver paint and everything. Just, I mean, he's gray all around, but he's all these different grays, and it makes for this very nice layered look, so I really appreciate it. And with that said, now let's move on to the accessories. All right, now that we've had our fun with the Centurion drone, let's open up the second part of this little package, the accessories. So they come in this little box here, a little hole for you to get into it, open it up. Let's see, okay, so come in a big old bag. It is lightly taped shut, easily removed. All right, let's just dump it out. Boom. Okay, so this is cool. This is cool. Lots of accessories here. So here we have the comically large ion blaster that's supposedly supposed to go to Earthrise Optimus, and we'll match it up with him. But I gotta warn you, it's really big. Like, this looks like it would work better for the leader class Optimus, honestly. But you got that. You get, probably the biggest reason I got this, Roller. We finally get Roller to go with the Earthrise Optimus Prime's trailer. Not digging how loose the wheels are. They're kind of floppy. Does have a nice cool 5mm port on top, so you can attach things to it. Heck, you can attach this to it if you want to. There you go, look at that. Let's see. We get Megatron's Energon mace. Now that's awesome. And just plugs into his hand there. Little 5mm port. Get Optimus's Energon axe. Also very, very cool. Very reminiscent of the Masterpiece accessory. You get a handgun mode Megatron for somebody to wield. Probably get that Starscream. Let's see, something stuck in here. You get a cassette player mode Soundwave. Kind of random, but okay, I'll take it. More free stuff. A camera mode reflector or refractor with a 5mm post on the bottom so things can hold him. You get Ironhide's drill weapon, which is really, really neat. You get a satellite dish that's supposed to go with the Earthrise Trailbreaker toy, who unfortunately isn't out yet, but that'll plug on his back. You get a little itty bitty Slug Optimus Prime figure. And this is supposedly supposed to go with the other minifigures that'll come with Unicron, who comes out next year. Real shame he's not painted. A lot of things in here are unpainted, but this seems kind of egregious because I'm pretty sure the other Slug figures will be painted. So, not sure why they didn't do that. This is supposed to be Bumblebee's little handgun, which is pretty neat. And then we get Cliff Jumper's glass gas cannon. So he finally gets his proper weapon. You get two Energon cubes, and one has this little wavy bit going through the middle. Whoops. To look like it's half full. So that's a nice touch. Don't seem to have any way to interact. They're just kind of there, I suppose. And you get Sideswipe's jetpack, which can also double as Optimus Prime's jetpack. So that is a very cool accessory. Oh, we got a silencer for the gun megs. Plug that on. Oh, it's keyed, so it plugs in a certain way. There you go. Very neat. We get, oh, this is Shockwave's gun mode. It can be held by, you know, any random Autobot, Decepticon, Shockwave himself, if you want to emulate the Masterpiece toy. And then, last but certainly not least, we get this large cage, which harkens back all the way to the pilot episode of Transformers, where the Autobots trap Ravage inside of a cage. So it just comes apart just like this. You can put a little Ravage or, you know, really any small robot in there. And then you close back up. And it's done in like a smoky, transparent color, which is pretty neat. So yeah, lots and lots of accessories. This is really, really cool. Disappointed by the lack of paint on, you know, half of these. Most of these are just gray, which, I mean, I get it, budget the thing, and I think, you know, they had to prioritize certain things like, you know, painting roller. Wouldn't want to leave that unpainted. But certain things bother me more than others, like the unpainted Shockwave, the unpainted Optimus minifig, Jetpack, maybe. They did at least paint the details on Megatron, so that's pretty cool. Okay, let's pair these up with their intended figures, or, you know, the closest thing that's available right now. So let's take a look at our Autobots with their accessories. And right here, you can see I have Hoist, but he's using Trail Cutter's radar dish because, unfortunately, Trail Cutter's not out yet. And this isn't exactly where it would go on Trail Cutter, so it's not the best visual. It would be more toward the center here because he has different pieces in this area. But it gives you somewhat of an idea of how that's supposed to look. Right here, you have Cliff Jumper wielding his glass gas cannon, and it scales pretty well for him, so that's nice. I don't have the new Bumblebee because, again, he's not out yet, so the closest I have is old Titans Return B. Luckily, since they're roughly the same size, he can still wield this and look pretty cool, and this is Bumblebee's just normal blaster that he wields in the cartoon. And back here, you have Sideswipe's Jetpack, which I think he only ever actually used in like one episode, but whatever. And sculpt-wise, it's like dead on. Of course, it stinks that it's not painted, but what can you do? But it's cool. You know, he can be a child and pretend he's flying around, zooming through the skies. Looks a little big on him, but it fits his form very well. It's molded to work. And that'll come back in a moment, so don't forget about it. And then lastly here, we get Ironhide's drill weapon. Now, in the cartoon, it's forearm mounted, but it's actually mounted on like the top of his forearm, and he kind of holds like a little trigger for it like this. Now, it doesn't work with this toy because, you know, the 5mm port's on the outside of his forearm, so you got to kind of finagle it a bit if you want it to be cartoon accurate. But it looks pretty cool either way. You can have him, you know, wield on his forearm. You can even have him hold it in his hand if you want, because that kind of gives the illusion like it's still mounted to the top of the forearm. Up to you how you want to do that. Now, naturally, this weapon would be meant for Earthrise Ironhide, but like half of the things here, he's just not out yet. So unfortunately, we're going to make do with the Siege version. Though it's, you know, like 80% the same toy, so whatever, right? Either way, they all work out very well. The accessories really complement these guys about as well as you could expect. Now here we have some of our Decepticons with their little toys. So you can see I've got Starscream wielding the Megatron handgun because he's just usually the one that does that. Shockwave is wielding himself in gun mode, which might not make too much sense, but there is precedent for it. There is actually an episode of the cartoon where he's seen wielding a gun that looks like his alternate mode. So, yeah, it works. And it's evocative of the Masterpiece toy, too, which also comes with his own little minigun mode. And one thing that's worth pointing out, for one, it really stinks that this guy is not, that the gun mode isn't painted, because, I mean, of all the accessories to paint, this would be one of them. What is really cool, though, is that it does come with a little 3mm post on the tip of it, so you can attach a blast effect. Oh yeah, it's worth pointing out that the Megatron gun also comes with such a thing. Then I've got Pounce here from the Clone 2-pack, and he's wielding the little mini version of Reflector or Refractor. Again, unpainted, but is held by a little 5mm post. Weird way to hold a camera, but I figure since he's a spy-type character, you know, a little sneaky guy, it works. Speaking of spies, you got Ravage trapped in his cage now. And of course, you know, this is the Siege Ravage, the upcoming Netflix one, which is, you know, arguably an Earthrise one, would match us a little better aesthetically, but it still works out pretty well. I like that. Of course, you got Ravage's Master here, Soundwave, in his little tiny cassette mode. This, to me, was kind of one of the more random ones, but whatever, it's okay. It does have a 3mm port there, so you can place it on things, maybe on like something in its base mode, most likely. And then our 2 Energon cubes. At first glance, they don't look like much, but they're actually very interesting because there's some molded detail here that makes them look liquid-filled, right? You can see some bubbles in this one. You can see this one looks like it's filling up. It's got a little splash mark there. And, that is a callback to the cartoon where Energon was depicted as some sort of a liquid substance that they would put into empty cubes. So since this is a very, G1 cartoon heavily influenced set, it makes sense to do this. And these also, here in this corner, have little 3mm holes so you can, plug them into things like a base mode. One thing I don't like about them is that they are hollow on one side. I don't really know of a good reason for that other than just cost cutting. So that's a shame. But overall, these accessories are pretty cool. Kind of like the Autobot accessories a little more, but these are still really neat. Now, of course, we need to look at our 2 faction leaders and the very cool accessories that they come with. These are probably the highlights of this, that and Roller. So here, you can see Megatron's got his Energon mace, and it just slips over his fist. Seems to be meant specifically to go into this fist because of the way that opening is molded. It just conforms to that shape there. And overall looks very, very cool. The one thing I don't like about it is that it's got screws holding this together, but the screw holes are in the top, which I'm not a fan of. I wish they would have reversed the way those went in because it just doesn't look great having those there. Not too noticeable from a distance, but once you see it, you can't unsee it. Then Optimus, he comes with his ever awesome Energon axe. And that also goes in his hand, very much in the same way that it does on the MP10 Optimus Prime, where it doesn't replace the fist, it just gets held by it in a certain way. But still very, very cool. And then here's the new Ion Blaster, and you can see this thing is almost big enough to be comically large, and I don't know why. They must have been basing this off of like one particular screenshot where the weapon was just drawn to be very big, since scale was always very inconsistent in the cartoon. Because I just don't know why it's that big. I mean, this thing is the size of something you'd find on like a leader or a masterpiece size Optimus. And just to give you an idea of the size difference, here's the stock one that he comes with. And this thing's almost twice as long. So I wish it was smaller, but again, it's not too big that he can't wield it or anything. It just takes some getting used to. I do like the nice jet black color that it has, as opposed to like a very dark, brushed gray color. I do think it works a little better for him. But it's up to you if you want to use this version, use the old version. Either way, looks really neat. And then one last thing to look at are a few more accessories for Optimus. Okay, and now here we can see the new and very awesome Roller. And this guy fits inside of Optimus's trailer very, very well. You can see that 5mm port on top comes in handy because just like the new Masterpiece toy, the MP44, it can use the repair drone and have it sit on top if you'd like that. Of course, you can always attach the Ion Blaster, as well. You can put that on there to make him a little more heavily armed, which is also very neat. And it gives you a place to store the little Ion Blaster if Optimus is wielding the big one. So it kind of works out. And it's up to you how you want to do that. I will say, though, that between, Roller and the new Energon axe and all that, and this, which I'll show off in a moment, I find even fewer precious little reasons to buy the MP44 for the ridiculous amounts that it goes for. I mean, I wasn't a fan of the aesthetic of it and, the fragility of it anyway, but the price it killed me. It priced me out of that very quickly. So, yeah, I mean, this guy pretty much has everything that Masterpiece toy comes with now, albeit, a little more simplified and about 1/10 of the price. So getting this makes me very happy I didn't take that dive, because man, would I have regretted it after all these accessories came out. Now, before we move on, let me show you this. This is the Sideswipe backpack, and it is molded in a way, so it's got this extra peg here, to go onto Optimus's back. And for one, a lot more proportional to him than is the Sideswipe. But it's a callback to the G1 episode where Sideswipe lends Optimus his jetpack, and he uses it to fly around. And that's the reason the jetpack's also included with the new Masterpiece toy. So that's really cool. You can really load Optimus Prime up here. And this just makes him much more the definitive toy, definitive update to the original. And last, but kind of least, because it's really tiny, we get that little slug figure. And I'm going to try to show you guys this. It's really, really small. So let's see if I can't zoom in on it here. It's really tiny. You can make out the sculpted details and everything. He's got quite a bit. He's got back details, which is good. And, again, this is something that really suffers from the lack of paint because it's just a plain gray little slug figure. And if that were the case for the other two that are coming with the Unicron, it wouldn't be so bad. But as far as we know, the Hot Rod and Galvatron figures are fully painted, or at the very least, their plastic colors are at least right. So he's definitely gonna be the odd man out there. Plus, it also doesn't make much sense because if this is all supposed to be movie based, well, Optimus is dead by the time Unicron shows up. So, this is to me the most random of accessories. Like why we have it, I don't know. Couldn't tell you. And there you have it. This is everything included with the new Transformers War for Cybertron accessory pack, also known as the Centurion drone. Overall, this thing has been just an absolute delight. Again, first time we've ever really received something like this. And man, I hope we get more. I really do. I'd love to see them get creative and come out with more stuff like this. And, I think they really nailed it, right? They're probably wondering, imagine they were nervous, right? That the accessory pack might not be something that sells. So what do? They include a figure with it. And, pretty neat figure. Nothing super high demand where people might feel that wanted characters locked behind some sort of a paywall. But something still cool enough that people would appreciate it. People have been wanting the Centurion drone since Brunt came out. So it works out really well. Again, you get so much with this. Honestly, when you add everything together, all the different parts, accessories, I think it's a really amazing deal. The only place you really see much cost cutting again is the lack of paint on a lot of these accessories. For some reason, they just weren't feeling it. Or really, not even so much a lack of paint, but a lack of plastic color options. You can tell that the vast majority of this was all molded from the same plastic. I'm sure it was all part of the same mold. So that's something that, kind of hurts it for me. A lot of these just don't look good being gray and unpainted, and then some of them just really don't work at all. Like, again, the mini Optimus Prime, Shockwave weapon, all that. But for $30, or in my case, 20, I really can't complain. This is a fantastic little set. I'm really happy I picked it up. I'm sure everyone else that got one is also very happy. And if you got one coming, I think you'll really like it. Especially if you're a big cartoon fan, because this is very much geared toward making your toys a little more cartoon accurate. So, there's a lot of people out there, especially the 80s kids, that really appreciate this. So, as always, that is just how I feel about this. Now I'd love to know what you all think. Will you be picking this up? Have you already picked it up? Or is there some reason you're not interested in it? Is it just that you don't care for the accessories, or you don't think they're well done enough, or you think, the price is too much for what you get? Any and all feedback, of course, is always welcome in the comment section. If you enjoyed this review, make sure to toss it a like. Let YouTube know you want to see more stuff like this. If you do want to see more like this, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you always get a heads up when I post something new. I thank you for joining me to take a look at the all-new Transformers War for Cybertron Siege Earthrise Centurion drone and accessory pack. And with all that said, I will see you next time.